To another episode of Sales Chatter with DJ and Dan.
Well,
Hey,
hey,
DJ, I know we tried to kind of get something going yesterday from your phone, but it's always better on the PC and that kind of thing. So we're sitting. So thank you everyone for your
yes, sir.
patience for waiting for today for the old mindset when we close deals. And I know DJ, I'm excited to jump right into it because often we see I know you've probably seen it as well. The whole thing where no, I'm great at opening, but I'm like I suck at closing. And I've always sure, sorry, that's not accurate. Um, about 5, 6 years into my career, I started to realize it's just kind of that, if sales is like this, it's that tipping point that,
Man,
for lack of a better Maxwell Gladwell, uh, it's that tipping point,
you're
and
so great.
the close is really just a shift in mindset over anything else. Because if you've set the foundation right, the close is like it's what I call the next logical step. And we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow when we talk about the baseball diamond, because I know we're doing two back to back this week, as opposed to a day between. But something that was really interesting that we were talking about just before we hit go on the live was Bruce Lipton's The Biology of Belief. And I'm so glad you brought it up because it has been years since I read that book, and I'm actually going to
Oh
go
man,
grab it again today because I think it's going to be I think it's a would you say it's probably a must read now? I mean, and only because you brought it up. Like it's just
yeah,
rehashing all these old, like, wow, yes, yes, yes.
yes,
The
yes, yes.
Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. I think it's a must for any salesperson.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it's I mean, I think it's a read for anybody. You don't even have to be in sales. I think it is a must read. It really, and what we're talking about, guys. And again, like Dan said, thank you guys for being patient and for your patience. I was on the road yesterday, and so couldn't make it. We were going to do it from the road, but then we figured it was just too, especially for me, like Dan was mentioning, uh, the mindset and mind and this whole idea of mind is something that actually Dr. Bruce Lipton, and listening to him on YouTube, really got me into. Really, just it totally shifted everything when I really started to focus on what my mindset was, from gratitude of waking up to when things are happening throughout the day and overcoming them because of, again, just you can't be, and you hear it everywhere, but yes, any job. Whoever said that, yes, I agree. Any
Yeah.
job. It's the mindset.
Arminder.
It's the mindset for sure. Anything you do in life, if you can believe enough, and that's why he says the belief in biology is it's if you can believe it. I mean, that's why there's so many sayings of it. Walt Disney and everybody else. If you believe it, you can do
Hmm.
it. He who says he can or he who says he can is both right. I mean, they have so many sayings about it, but we never really dove into it and really like Dr. Bruce Lipton does, and the things that he is able to really pull from it and that book. It'll change your mind. It'll change your life.
It will
Please.
for sure. It will. And and here's the thing. And so let's relate this back to sales for everyone
Yep.
watching. I mean, we're talking logistics and transportation sales for everyone watching, but the reality is, every single strategy, tactic, framework, idea that DJ and I throw out. I mean, you could mold these into any industry whatsoever. It's just we're going to talk particular in sales. And in logistics and transportation sales, as we were talking about just before we went live here, there's that whole, oh, well, they're good at opening, but they suck at closing, or they can't open, but they're the closers, right? And I believe wholeheartedly, and by all means, all y'all watching, listening, come back with comments because this is where we start playing in the sandbox here. Because I do
Yes.
believe it's as I was saying to DJ before we started, like sales is kind of this almost teeter totter. And if when you're opening, you're here. When you're closing, you're here. And as you're climbing the hill of opening, it's just at a certain point where the meter tips, if you will, and the close is now. But I've I've had the pleasure of being on thousands of sales calls with people, listening in and just, really trying to pinpoint that moment when we as a salesperson must see the hints, must see the kind of keys, the
Yeah.
signs to say, okay, let's go in for the close. And when we make that mindset shift, and it really, for me anyways, the easiest way I've put it to most people is, it's a review, are you ready? So just think, review, are you ready? So review, you know what, DJ, over the last couple of calls, we've said this, this, and this. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So you're clarifying everything you've talked about. And then I understand this, this, and this. And here's some of the goals and strategies and things that you want to be in place in the next 3 to 6 months. Yes. Okay. Have I covered this? Have I covered that? Have I covered this? Have I covered that?
Yeah.
Yes. When can we get something going so we can make this happen? And I don't, and again, some people might completely disagree with me, and certain industries might be different, but in logistics and transportation sales, for me, anyways, it's really just a matter of, hey, did I solve? Did I create the solution? Did I come up with an idea, strategy, framework, timeline that's going to help you achieve your goals? If I did, the next logical step is, let's do business together. Now, for I will say, if that doesn't happen, you need to start backtracking and see where you missed the point.
Peel back
Because
the onion. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, so DJ, I ask you this: how many times have you made a call or started soliciting a lead? And normally it's like, kind of call it a 60-day close for
Yeah.
argument's sake. And this one closed in like 14 days. It was just like everything clicked, and it was almost like, pro athletes where they say, I'm in the zone. Like, and when
Yeah.
we play sports too, not just pro athletes, I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
the zone all the time. I like to think anyway, sometimes I'm in my own zone, but and
Like I'm in the
everything
zone.
just, yeah, and everything just kind of goes click, 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 and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're like, damn, that was one of the easiest sells I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And that's not the sell. That's because you clicked. Everything they needed, you said the right words. You gave them the right message to the right person. I mean, all of these strategies that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, and the ones we're going to lay out until probably the end of October now, we've got mapped out. All are going to build this step by step. What do you think?
Yeah. Great experience. Okay. Love it. So I will tell you, and so I love, and I never realized when I talk about training of anything how much I talk about dating. So Maggie, if you're watching, this has nothing to do with that. Maggie's my wife. But what to explain your tipping that to really drive home to people and why this I could do shows and shows on mindset and your mind right and this, just because it really is the difference of so. And I'm going to blow a lot of people's minds here, but so that tipping point he's talking about, it's not just sales, it's everything. But that tipping point that you're coming to. So if I can, again, going to dating. So you just had a great date with first date with that pretty girl or really great looking guy. If you're a girl, that's aggressive. Hey, I like that too. You're going in for the kiss, or thinking that's you're thinking about going in for the kiss. Well, that's your tipping. Are you going to take the risk? That's really what it comes down to. It's a whole mind shift change, just like in the sale. At first, you're building the story, you're doing, and if you're doing it right, like Dan's talking about, you're information gathering. And all you're doing with information gathering, again, I hate to make this sound as brutal as I've been taught it, but it's kind of like they're giving you the bullets to take care of them at the end, if everybody understands that. And that's just getting, but it's not a war, it's just you're trying to find out what works for them, what makes them tick, so that there's no more questions at the end. Because if you'll know, like Dan said, you're ready for the close if everything feels like you're in the zone. If you're constantly getting pushback or questions are pushback, same thing. There's basically telling you, I need more information on why you. And Again, that's the in-home sales version, but it's the same thing on the phone. You're gonna know if you can, and you're good at this skill of just honing and feeling the vibe and feeling. Again, in person. So me and Dan, I see Dan. He's leaning in. I'm gonna give you guys some in person things to look for. He's leaning in, so he's interested. He is paying attention. He's not looking somewhere else. Looking somewhere else, and those things can make it seem like they're not interested. Um, that's what you're seeing in the phone in person. Obviously, on the phone, for us doing it on the phone, you got to find other things, little keys that you're looking for. Are they starting to cut you off? Well, if they're starting to try to interject, they're probably saying, "Okay, shut up. That's enough. Let me talk." If they're trying to rush you off, you probably didn't hit the right thing that needed to spark them. But again, it's finding those keys. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like it's a journey, right?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
almost I almost love looking at sales as a story. So if you look at every story, you have like the introduction of the characters, the cold call, right? Then you find out, some of the backstory of the characters. So, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what have you found in the past that's frustrated you? Like all of those things is kind of, and every movie is the same process where it's like, you got the backstory of the main attractive character. And for us in sales, we have to make the customer or the prospect the main attractive character as opposed to us. We're just the guide to help to bring them through.
Yep.
And, that story continues. And then there's obviously the climax of the story where it's like, okay, this is good. Let's get it going. And then the end result, which is the customer. And, you know, if so, I've always said to salespeople, you know, if you don't fully understand why the customer buys, if you haven't fulfilled that why, then you can never go in for the close. Like it's, and we'll talk more in depth about the steps tomorrow. But from a basic overview, once you find out why they buy, your only mission is to fulfill the why.
Well,
If
and guys,
you go for it,
I'm sorry. You
go for
said
it.
something perfect there. To Dan's point there, that if the close, guys, the first sign to know if you're missing these clues that Dan's looking for is closing is hard. If closing the deal is always hard to you, or you're just like reaching for that phone, always scared to reach for the, it, it should never be hard. If you're answering all of their questions and doing the right thing, the close should always be the easiest
Hmm.
because you're
And here's the thing, DJ. Some customers are going to be afraid to pull the trigger.
yeah, oh, of
No
course.
ifs, ands, or buts. I don't
But
care
they're just
what
telling you
industry
they
you're in.
didn't.
There's going to be customers.
You didn't
But
push that button. You didn't push
well,
that
but
button.
but here's the thing: is if you don't review. See,
Yeah.
like I've always found, and again, when I say you don't, my opinion is if you have all that information, right? Here's what the challenge was for you. Here's my solution. Here's what the obstacles were. Here's my solution. Here's what the costing is. Here's my costing. Here, and you go through all of that. And if there's savings on it or free time that you're able to value stack with them or whatever the value stack is that you have to close that deal, whatever that is, you review it. You say, is that right, Mr. Customer? Yes. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. Then let's do business together. And in my opinion, at that point, if they don't pull the trigger, you have every right to say, I'm and and guys and gals, I do this all the time. I mean, I shock people when I CC them on the emails because they're like, "Holy crap, you weren't kidding!" And I'm like, "No, at this point, I need an ROI because my time, like I'm in sales I'm here in this business for profit, not for practice. And all of you are. Listen, I'm the first one to say I'm here to help 10,000 sales reps generate $1 million GP. So there's an element of I have this mission, but that mission has to be profitable for me in order to keep my doors open. Your mission has to be profitable for you. You have to make a profit off your customers to keep your company's door open. That's just what it is. It's business 101. But for me, I look at it and I say, okay, this I hit, that I hit, that I hit. Am I right, Mr. Prospect? Yes, I am. Okay, Why are we not doing business? Let's get it going. And
And
okay,
and guys, what
prospect.
Dan's doing right there. So if you want to again, because he said pull the trigger, and it again just went right to the shooting again and the bullets. So if you think the close is now, because that is what it always feels like. I mean, especially in home sales, I have long background of that sitting, because you're always closing, or they teach you to always be closing at the table, and you're closing at their table because that's where most families do their business. That's where they write their checks out for their bills. That's where they pay their bills. That's where they gather for dinner and all of those things. So, but you're now on their home court doing that. So you're sitting across from them on the table. But so it almost feels like a battle, like a war. And like Dan said, so they got a gun and you got a gun. And with what Dan's telling you to do and really following through, yeah, you definitely got to reaffirm that every question that they had or concern that they had, you answered. So what's left? Let's do it. And that's, if you did that and you replay that, you're slowly bullets out of their gun in the battle and putting them in yours, and then it should be okay, sold. And but you got to make sure, like Dan's saying, you're recapping that you understood everything that they needed. You found all of the pain points that from asking the right questions that they were looking for. He is the answer when you compare everything to what it was to what it is with the questions that he covered. Let's do it. And that's how easy it really should be, but
Well, it should be the
it's
logical
not.
next step,
Yeah.
right? But I think it's again. So if we go back to the nucleus of what today's conversation is, because I know we've been veering off the highway quite a bit, but it's
Oh yeah.
more for all y'all listening. We veer off the highway because we want to add more background context to what is going on. But
Correct.
the reality is this: is that a once you hit that tipping point, the mindset goes to, okay, I've done, like, I need an ROI. And I can again only encourage everybody, like, asking for the sale. If you don't ask for the sale, right, and you have the solution to this prospect or to this industry, you're actually doing a disservice.
Yep.
And that's key. And not only that, I'll bring this all the way back to cold calling. If you have a value driven service, if you have these ideas, these strategies, these frameworks that are helping clients crush it, that are helping clients get streamlined, if that are helping all of that, the reality is you owe it to the industry to get that out there and serve the people that need it. There are people out there that need it. And I know so many sales reps are like, Dan, I just feel like I'm a telemarketer some days. And it's true, DJ. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that mindset comes over you, hit voicemail after voicemail, you get shot down, you get shot down, you get shot down. But I could just, again, mindset, I could just share with you again, like, believe in the value that you bring and know you're worth something. Because
Gosh,
when
yeah.
you're closing, it's like, I can deliver this. And I'll share with you a story that just happened last week. Somebody got a hold of me, said, I'm in major, like, I need help big time. And I've always said, I am never going to let money get in the way of helping someone.
Mm.
But everybody has to put skin in the game, or else you just will not do it. So I said to this person, I said, listen, come up with a plan. I want, you need to get into my major program, which is a year coaching, all this kind of jazz, 20 something $1,000 in value. I said, you need to get in, but just come up with a plan for a monthly payment that works to meet the total number, the $2,000 mark. And I didn't care if it was 6 months. So I gave that person all the strategy and all the tools for them to be able to instantly get in and change their business.
Yes.
Never came back. So
Well,
yeah, never came back. So but DJ, this is the difference, right? Is
you
in
put their feet to the fire. You put their feet to the
well,
fire. You
100%.
gave them, you
Yeah.
gave them an option, and yeah, they weren't ready to invest in
And
themselves.
that's it. And sometimes the customer you're chasing, the prospect you're chasing, isn't ready to invest. It all sounds great, but there's
Yeah.
still that, if I pull the trigger and something goes wrong. So we need to address that, right? We,
Yes.
we need to come back and we need to say, okay, what is it that's stopping us here? Like, and I'm of the opinion, just ask, hey, you know, what is stopping you from making this decision? Like, maybe you need to add an extra guarantee. Maybe you need to say, hey, listen, here's the reality of it. If I screw up the first 5 loads, I'll give it to you for free, as long as you promise that you'll maintain the relationship and we'll be able to build it. Like, the guarantee at that point is critical, because there still is that kind of, and I hate saying it like this, but I don't really know of a better way to say it: the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right? Now, you could just be like, in the prospects thought process,
I
right?
gotta
You
write
could
that
just be
down.
lying, or you could be saying all the right things, and then you completely crumble like a sack of dirt when the time comes, right? So there's that variable too, DJ, that salespeople encounter all the time. But I can tell you one thing: if the passion's in your voice and the confidence is in your voice, that starts to be eliminated on the prospect side. Now, variables, you know, context, caveats is, if they were just like screwed over, there's so many things that we can do, or that situations we could discuss in transportation, because who boy is there ever, right? But yeah, you know where I'm
Yes.
coming from, brother.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, and to your point too, with the mind, and why we're doing the show, guys. Really, it is mind, getting your mind right and getting your that transition in your mind, like Dan's saying. First, if you can play it through, you're checking off all the lists. So as you're going through this process, and really, to before I go even further, Dan says a lot, guys. ROI, it's return on investment. If you don't think that every time you're making a call to somebody and then follow up calls, that's not an investment in them, you're wrong. But it's an investment in you too. And you got to remember that those are, I forget who said it or what I was listening to, but they said uh, to put a number, you need to put a physical number on what is your value, not what you're getting paid now. Because again, I don't know everybody's situation. If again, in what we do, it's mostly mostly commission. But if you're an hourly person, or even if you are commission, what are you averaging? And then put a number, put a true number on what you're making per hour. So if you're not keeping hours, if you're not really figuring out how long you do, you don't know that process and how long, or you don't know how much you really are making per hour at this point. So you should figure that out first. And second, put a value on it. What is your value? What do you think you're worth? Are you worth $50 an hour? Are you worth $100 an hour? Are you worth, what are you worth? And that's your return on investment. Then is figuring out, okay, all the time that I'm putting in, am I getting that back from this? That's that's figuring out, guys.
Well, I
Are
mean,
you
here's the thing, DJ. You know, directly to that point, you can spend a lot of time chasing ghosts, or you can spend time with people that are actually going to move the needle and create an ROI for you. And the reality is,
the
ROI is
figure
what it's all about.
and the faster you figure it out is the difference between success.
Yeah,
Literally,
100%. And it's
the
also,
faster you can
and maybe
figure
not
out.
even success and failure, but where you are to where you really want to be. So you
Yeah,
might even not be quote unquote failing right now, because that's a big word, right? And the reality is, failure only comes when we give up.
yeah.
And guys,
Oh
we can
yeah.
go all the way back to Einstein, 10,000
Well,
times, light bulb,
yeah.
blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, you just put in Google, what is failure, and you'll get everything you want. But the reality is,
Seven
you're
over here.
here. Yeah, you're here. You want to be here. Your desire, you feel it in your bones. That's the difference. And that's where we bridge the gap.
Yes.
And bridging the gap is with these strategies and ideas like DJ and I are delivering every Tuesday and Thursday. It's critical. And hey, listen, take it, don't take it. It's your call. It's your business. But when you hit that tipping point, it's two different strategies. One strategy to get to the close, and another strategy is the close, right? And it's it, and I hate to say it like this, because it's simple. Sometimes it's not easy, because we're trying to extract information from people. Like, the march there is not easy. But if you're at that point where you're tipping, you've done all the hard work. I mean, well, let me rephrase that, because keeping the client is even harder than getting the client. But you've done that legwork, right? You've done all that digging the ditch to stop the water flow from getting to your side of the island or whatever it is, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's probably a really horrible metaphor, brother. But you've dug that ditch. Now it's time to say, okay, I'm going to plant my flowers and let them grow. And then tending to the garden is just as difficult as digging the garden, but it's a different feeling inside. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right, DJ?
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, yeah, it is. I mean, yeah. Once you get there, it's the finesse and the caring and all the other things that come into garden from that point. So yes, you're so right. But tipping point too, guys, is you'll feel it. You'll feel it in your mind. If there's any trigger I can give you, if anybody, again,
now you're cutting out a bit here,
if
DJ.
Like there's no way.
Yeah, DJ, you're cutting out. You're cutting out, brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my
big time. Do you have too many programs open again?
Maybe.
No.
The case.
Your bars are all. You're at 0 out of 10 network connection.
Yeah, my signal's really bad. Maybe I'll hop off if you leave for a second here.
Yeah, well, what you know what I think we've delivered. So why don't we close? Oh, okay, I guess DJ's going to jump off. So the end result and idea here is that
Hey, I'm back.
There we go. Now you're better, brother. I was just gonna start winding
it up. I like it.
The interwebs were acting up and all that kind of jazz.
They don't like our messaging.
I think right now we're kind of beating a dead horse. I think the idea and the strategy is there. Like the fact is there's 2 segments to sales: opening, investigation, closing. If you open, you investigate, and you realize that your service, your value, what you can bring to the table really doesn't match that customer, because I'm sorry, not every customer is a good customer. We've talked about the DJ, we talked about this 100 times. Not every dollar is a good dollar. Not every customer is a good customer. And for all the customers watching, not every supplier is a good supplier for you. So it's a match. Bring it back to, dating, getting married, all that kind of stuff. When I met my wife, I instantly knew she was the love of my life. Instantly, it was just something inside. And when somebody says to me, when did you know? It's actually when she came around the corner for a business meeting we were at, and she came around the corner. I actually said to my the owners of the company I was with, I said, I'm going to marry that woman. Just like it just happened, and I was like a pit bull on a T-bone that hadn't eaten in a week. Sometimes she says you were like belly lint, you just didn't go away, and but here's the thing: is even if I would have said, yes, that is the love of my life, that's my wife, if there was no connection, if we didn't, as we got to know each other, as you do, as you enter the story, as you enter the movie, and you build through the phases, and the back characters introduced, and the and all that. If there's no connection, just move on. And the thing is, we as salespeople, I find, and correct me if I'm wrong, DJ, we get so caught up on volumes and freight and what that means to our wallet. But take it from somebody that's been 28 years in this industry. Sometimes that wallet is not worth the hassles at all. Because think about it. You have one customer giving you 10% of your business, chewing up 90% of your time because it's just like, oh my God, this person, you want way too much for what you're charging, and you can't raise the rates because somebody else thinks, just walk away. If I were, the one thing I would change in my business, if I knew now, like if I knew then what I know now, David or DJ, would be, one, always acquire customers for long-term growth. That would be the one thing I can tell any sales rep. Stop looking at it as just a sale. Where will I be with this customer in 3, 5, 10 years. And I know so many people are like 3, 5, 10 years, Dan, but you know
And
what,
do
you
you
think
want
about
to
the
be with that
lifespan.
customer? And even better, do you want to be with that customer for 3, 5, or 10 years? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, guys. I mean,
100%.
just like he's talking about with the wife, you know, he, I same thing. I can still picture my wife sitting on the bench the first time I met her. She was sitting right there at the rec center, and met her, and that was it. I was like, oh my god, that's her. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I want.
And
Um,
that's like what we talked about at the beginning, where I said, have you ever closed a deal instead of like a month and like a week? Right? That's that exact one. But they
but you
don't come by every day.
and you got to fill the story, like Dan said. You got to get all the information gathering, all the other steps to know, is that the deal? And
Yeah.
like Dan said, to really finish it up was, and is that the customer? Is that the person? Is that the business? Is that the job? Is that really it's any decision? Is that what you want for them and see yourself doing for the next 3, 5, 10 years? And if it is, if
That would
that's the
be the
customer,
one
if you
thing.
got that bond. I mean, my top customer, Robert, giving you the shout out there. He is in our group. Um, uh, good luck trying to find him, guys. He's no, he. I had to throw that out there. You know, I had to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's
He,
hilarious. Yeah.
no, we have a friendship, and that's
Every
I could.
Robert in the group is going to be DM'd. Hey, do you know?
Hey, are you working with DJ?
So if your name's Robert, DJ, sorry. He's sorry, but yeah. Go on. Sorry,
Yeah, I
brother.
am sorry for that, Robert, throwing your name, but yes, he is. We're, and it's again, it's yes, I could see myself doing business with him, even if he's not at the same customer, but doing the same thing for 3, 5, 10, 20.
Mhm.
As long, just like Dan has customers, you have customers, right? You've been working with since you started 18, 28 years
So
ago. Like,
I've actually got two customers now that are over 18 years
geez,
that I've
see,
been working with. Yeah,
that's
and you know what? And I got out of the industry. It's like, so, you know, my whole backstory, and I won't go into it too much, but in 2008 and 9, when I had a $30 million company and went to $300,000 in about 6 months because of my ego, I got out of the industry and I started doing personal development and coaching and speaking outside of logistics. And this one of the two customers called me and said, okay, so how are you going to move my freight? And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm out of the industry. He goes, no, you're not. And I said, what do you mean? No, I'm out. He goes, no, you're going to stay in because you need to move my freight. And I'm like, okay, but no, you don't understand. He goes, no, I don't care what you do. You're going to stay in. And I just happened to be on the phone with the second customer. And I'm like, he told me this. He goes, yeah, you know what? Screw that. You're staying and you're taking my business too. So it's like now I'm sitting there scrambling. So I ended up going with an agent network just to move their freight kind of thing. And it's kind of, you know, and never, I mean, we've had issues, we've had challenges, but I see in the next 10 years still working with these two. And,
yes,
you know,
yes,
like sit down and think to yourself, my friends, where would you be if you never lost a customer? Right? Like 1, 2, 5, 7, 10 years in your career. I don't know where all of you are right now, but where would you be if you had not ever lost a customer? And the second question to answer that, when you start really going, holy shit, like astronomical difference in my life, why did you lose the customers? And I can almost guarantee, just as sure as it's going to get dark out there tonight, that you lost them because you were not fully congruent. And not to use fancy dancy words or anything like that, like you didn't mesh.
yeah.
There was
You tried to force the marriage.
well, I think more above and beyond that, it was a financial agreement, right? Like you're
Yeah,
going to notice that a lot of these
yeah,
customers that you don't keep for a long time, it typically revolves around money and
yes,
the
yeah.
gain or loss of money. And they see it as you are price in the price range, so I'll use you. So you're the devil I kind of know. And then the devil I don't know, if they drop the price by 10%, well, I'm going to use them because I'm going to get to know that devil because it's worth a 10% risk, right? Like,
Yeah,
but
and
there's that.
yes, yes, yeah, and you're so. I have the same stories and can. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you
Yeah.
said that, yeah, I mean, there are customers that, again, like Dan said, he has his two customers, and I'm sure more, but has his customers that he is been working with for 18 years. I have the one that I spit out on there, but I do have a lot of customers that I've worked with like Dan's saying, that it was just about that. I they didn't they there was never an open door. I kept trying to make that relationship, and it was just money.
Mhm.
And so once
And it
that
always
money
is.
changed, then there was no reason to fight it. I just realized that's what it was. It was just
Mhm.
I had a good rate. They liked my service, and there was nothing more I could do to build that relationship. But that's feeling out and just
And that's plateaued, right? That relationship plateaued
yep.
where, if we look at, and okay, so think of it like this, my friends, okay? You spend more time communicating and associating with customers than you typically do your family. Okay, just because of especially in logistics, because it doesn't stop at 5. There's the conversations on the way home. Y'all done it. Conversations 7, 8 o'clock at night. There's the emails and texts that are coming through. What's going on here? What's happening in Asia? What's happening? Like, when you look at the time, not quality, but time, because you will never equally disperse your time, but you can double and triple the quality of time spent in specific areas of your life. But let's just look at business, right?
Yes.
So
So
you get in your car, you drive to work in the morning, your phone's probably ringing, you're probably dealing with all the fires or quote unquote challenges that happened overnight or whatever, the follow ups and all. So you're dealing with all that all day long. So my question is, right now, as you stand right here, right now, and be totally, like, fully transparent with yourself, are you happy with the people you are spending most of your time with? Or is it because of a paycheck? And that question for me hit me hard because I sat there and I said, I hate this customer, to the point where when the phone would ring, I'd be like, oh, am I really going to answer this? And,
yes.
for all of you listening, you've been there, you've done that, you've hung up the phone, you went, you fucking asshole. Rah, 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 rah. Like, we've all done it. Okay. If you haven't, then you've been in the industry for about 2 days. But, right? Yeah. With all due respect,
Yes,
so we've
exactly.
all done it. So what would you rather do? Would you rather wake up every morning and go work with or deal with people you dislike? Or would you rather wake up every morning and do this from a sales instead of this, and wake up every morning and love what you do? Have people that respect you, that trust you, that allow you to be creative. And this, for me, DJ, was the biggest thing. When I found customers that allowed me to be creative in their supply chain, and just enhance it and say, hey, what do you think about this idea? You know what, Dan? Is it, like, what is our exposure? Our exposure is this, and this, but we can mitigate it. Okay, you know what? Try it, because if it works, hey, great. If it doesn't, it's on you. And I'm like, okay, let's go. But
Yeah.
those customers keep us, as the salespeople, engaged. Right? It's like in school, you had that teacher that just engaged you and made you think. And that's what engaged you in that classroom. I had
Yeah.
no teachers that did that. That's why I have a grade 9 education, because none of them engaged me. I'm like, screw this, I'm out of here. But that's the engagement level, right? The higher we engage, like even on this call, DJ, the people that are going to stay on this call are the ones that are engaged with the message. The
Yes.
ones
Yes.
that hear us talk mindset and nah, that's bullshit mindset. You know what? I'm the expert closer. I don't need this gunk. That's great. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But you know what? After 28 years, if I can learn from every single person I speak to, even people that have been in the industry for 6 months, for all of you that logged off and you're never going to see this, but you missed an opportunity. You
Yeah.
really did. And for us, it's like just, if the one thing I tell every single student that comes into my programs, I'm like, please do me a favor, map your business now for the next 10 years, because that turnover is insane. The amount of effort, work, and ROI that's lost because you're turning over customers. That would be the one thing for me that I'm gonna close out whatever I gotta say on that note, brother. You
No,
go.
yeah, and again, yeah, we can wrap up. We are getting to the time, guys. And for anybody who's still on here listening, uh, man, mind, like I said, I could talk about this a lot. I followed. We talked about Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenzo. I love when you really just think of how powerful your mind is, guys. That's all we're really trying to drive through. Um,
Mhm. And the
if you
Biology by Leaf by Bruce Lipton, it's all science backed. Like
Yes.
they've
I mean,
scientifically proven the
exactly.
power of belief and just what you believe. It's
Well, and
crazy.
that's in sales. You know, we talked about it about believing in the product that you're selling. Same thing. I
Oh,
mean, Dan's getting even deeper with what you're doing. Yeah, if you're not happy doing it, even if you're making a lot of money, but you're not happy, and you're like, oh God, I got to go to work again. That's not you're wasting your talent. Steve Harvey. I'm going to finish you on this. Steve Harvey. So he's a Cleveland native. He tells a story. Look up his story. I freaking love him. If I could ever talk to that guy, I'd love to talk to that guy. But his story is crazy, and he says and I look it up. I'm not going to give you guys the whole rundown, but it's just
so
about
paraphrase it for us, brother, because I'm interested in hearing this.
the power of mind. But basically, what he's talking about, honestly, is yeah. Who's somebody Facebook user? If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That's yes. That's but Steve Harvey, he believes and he does follow again the God and God will answer your prayers and whatever God you guys are following again, that's a belief thing too. The one thing we're taught when we get into sales is not to talk about politics, religion, and sexuality. Why do you think those three things are? Because they are all solely based on belief. You can't change somebody's belief. And again, it's because it's your mind. It's your mind. But Steve Harvey says finding your talent. He was working somewhere, ended up figuring out because he, again, following just a quick story for you guys, he figures out that he was writing jokes for somebody, one of his friends, found out that, and he always wanted since the age of 10 to be on TV. He said that was his dream. He's gonna be on TV. Well, clearly, dreams do come true, guys, because this guy went from being homeless, living in his car in 1985 to now, like he says in his stories, you see him everywhere on TV almost every day. But that didn't happen until later. He had a lot of stuttering problems. He got called out from his teachers, who, like you mentioned, teachers failed you. The teachers failed him big time as well. His payback, though, just to finish that, because I love that, is his teacher who called him out to call him out for saying he wanted to be on TV. Uh, he sends her a TV every Christmas, so she doesn't on TV. Guys, that's it.
Awesome.
It's up here. But he quit his job. He made himself poor, like you said, and homeless by choice because he figured out his talent, his skill. What he loved to do was not going where he was working, but to tell jokes. So he lived homeless because he figured out that his God-given talent was telling jokes. If you're in this, guys, if you're Dan's talent clearly is clearly motivating and clearly, the convincing, or what some people would say, swindling, if you're using it for the wrong ways. We, us salespeople, we can get that word. And yes, if you're very good at your skill, that's where you can toward the line of uh, good salesperson or con artist. That's the line is the difference of
Well,
are you doing it for the right reasons and for everybody, or are you doing it for you? And if you're only doing it for you, then yeah, you're and the other people aren't winning. You're a con artist. You're
mhm.
using your skill to be able to manipulate, is what they would say, or convince is the good way. Convincing people to follow Christ is you're not doing anything wrong, but you're still convincing. It's the same thing we do in sales. But if you're convincing them to go steal this car down the street, you're not convincing them the right thing. Now you're manipulating them to do something bad. But again, it's up here, guys.
Mhm.
In the end, I found this quote and I love it, and we'll probably end on this because this is really what it comes down to in life, guys. Train your mind to see the good in every situation. That's
It's like Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, brother. That's awesome. And so, what we're going to do is actually to end this, we're going to bring this quote back up. If you think you can, you think you can't, you're right.
yes, yes.
That's from your wife, Maggie. So, Maggie, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Now, DJ knows you're watching, so
He
he'll
is
watch he'll
watching. Oh
watch what he
no!
says.
Listen, just remember the bench. Don't remember the kissing. No, just kidding.
That's it.
All
Everybody
right,
have a
bye
great day.
guys.
And for all
Thank
of you
you.
still watching and for all of you still here, tomorrow is the baseball diamond sales strategy. If we want to
Yes.
talk the simplistic sales strategy. This is a quick thing you can draw out, you can put on your wall, and you will never lose track of your sales cycle ever again. So I encourage you to join us tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, same place, same time. We'll be good to go. Have a good one, my
Yes,
friends.
sir.
Thanks, DJ.